We just got a letter and a warning from the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and this is a major sign that things are escalating and things are getting serious inside the country. We are also seeing federal deployments of the Texas National Guard. They are now inside of Chicago currently. So let's get into all the details. You guys can see this letter from Ken Paxton. All right, he just posted this earlier today. He said he's launching undercover operations to infiltrate and uproot leftist terror cells in Texas. All right, pretty wild that we are seeing this type of escalation. And he's warning that these cells are inside of Texas and they could be activated at any moment. All right, we'll get into more details of that in just a second. You can also see pictures of the Texas National Guard. They are being seen right now at the Elwood Army Reserve Center. This is right outside of Chicago. All right, so they are currently there. They were on planes yesterday, and now today they are in Chicago. All right, Federalized National Guard are on the ground, boots on the ground in Chicago from Texas. So this is relatively new territory. We've seen Biden do this before at the border. He's federalized the National Guard and sent them there, but this is, new territory. We haven't seen this in recent history where federalized National Guard are going into major cities. So this is big, and hopefully they can restore some law and order there. All right. We are also seeing a major warning from Secretary Kristi Noem on what is going to happen next in Portland. All right, she paid a visit there. And we're also seeing riot police being deployed in Montreal, Canada right now. All right, so it's in the US, it's nationwide, all these different cities, and it's in Canada too. All right, so something's going on. It seems like we're seeing coordinated efforts and even maybe paid efforts, and some people, paid agitators, getting these things riled up. All right, but let's get into more details of this. You can see here he's saying leftist political terrorism is a clear and present danger, and there can be no compromise with those who want us dead. This is coming from the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. He's issuing a very serious warning. All right, and we don't want our country to get to this point, but things are escalating very quickly, especially after the Charlie Kirk situation, and he even addresses it here. You can see here it says Attorney General Ken Paxton launches undercover operations to infiltrate and uproot leftist terror cells in Texas after increased political violence. And one little note too is, I don't know if he's already been doing these things, because announcing the undercover operations is probably not the best idea, honestly. But I think it's something that's already been going on, and now he's letting people know that this is happening behind the scenes. All right, and he doesn't really give too much information, and I don't want to give too much information either, but he says, in response to the political assassination of national hero Charlie Kirk and the disturbing rise of leftist violence across the country, Attorney General Ken Paxton has launched undercover investigations into various groups affiliated with left-wing political violence known to be operating in Texas. And actually, just today, I don't know how I forgot this story. There was somebody, sorry if you're hearing some noise, my puppy's in here. He's barely a pup anymore, he's getting big, but he's in here roaming around, rummaging around. But just today, a man was arrested because he had over 200 explosive devices outside of a church. This is absolutely insane. I need to pull this story up really quick. You can see here, this is from the Washington Post. It says, man arrested at DC Catholic Church had 200 homemade explosives. This is wild. This is insane. I don't know how else to describe this. It says Supreme Court justices were expected to attend Red Mass at St. Matthew's Cathedral on Sunday. This is wild and scary. This was in Washington, D.C. A man had more than 200 handmade destructive devices, including bottle rockets and Molotov cocktails, in a tent on the steps of a D.C. cathedral where Supreme Court justices were expected to attend Mass on Sunday, court records show. During his arrest, Louis Gary threatened to ignite explosives and handed authorities pages of his notebook that, according to court records, expressed animosity towards the Catholic Church, Supreme Court justices, and members of the Jewish faith and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. D.C. police first approached Jerry inside a green tent posted on the top of the stairs leading to St. Matthew's Cathedral as they cleared the block for Red Mass, an annual religious service marking the start of a new Supreme Court term and honoring the judiciary. So he was inside of a tent posted on top of the stairs right outside of the cathedral, and the tent was filled with all these different explosive devices. What the heck is going on, right? You know what I want to actually say, but I'll refrain from saying it. But what is happening? This is like crazy person territory. Okay, these people are nut jobs, and it's dangerous. They said this guy's from New Jersey, traveled all the way to DC with this stuff, and was posted up outside the church with a tent. Absolutely insane. And this is like barely even news. Okay, you think this would be like big breaking news all over the place. It's barely even in the news. That's why I forgot about it for a second, because I saw the story and I wanted to talk about it, but I just forgot to bring it up because nobody's really talking about it right now. Well, what the heck is this? This is insane. All right, so Catholic Church targeted in Washington, D.C., and Supreme Court justices were supposed to go there, right? So, and he said, quote, "You might want to stay back and call the Federalized. I have explosives." That's what this guy told officers when they confronted him, right? This guy's insane. So, and it says none of the justices attended this year's Mass. Like, this is crazy. Happening in Washington, D.C., while the National Guard's deployed there. All this stuff, all these resources are there, and somehow this guy's able to set up a tent on the stairs of this cathedral. Right? So, huge news, and it kind of goes in coordination with this, right? Texas Attorney General warning that there's terror cells inside Texas and inside the United States, and now we have people like this. We saw ICE agents attacked in Paxton a couple of days ago. I covered, right? These things keep happening, right? So that's my pup back there. He's a little wolf. But this is why the National Guard has been deployed to Chicago. National Guard's in Washington, D.C., and this is still happening, right? Crazy. Let's get into what Secretary Noem is saying, and then we will get into this too. 107 nominees were just approved in the Senate. All right, so there's a government shutdown right now. They're trying to get a deal through and get a deal done. But the Senate was able to approve with a 51-47 vote to approve 107 Trump nominees all at once. All right, so pretty remarkable. They're still getting things done, even when the government shut down, still getting things done. And there's also, from this government shutdown, air traffic control towers are being shut down too in Nashville now, right? So we were talking about yesterday how the Hollywood Burbank Airport in Los Angeles County, California, was shut down for around 6 hours yesterday after a bunch of air traffic controllers called out sick and didn't want to show up because they're not getting paid right now. So the Southern California air controllers had to take over instead of the federal ones. Now it's happening again at the Nashville International Airport, and they are, quote, going dark for around 5 hours due to the ongoing staff shortage And this is in part due to the shutdown and people calling out to here in Nashville. So there's likely going to be temporary ground stops, flight delays, and reroutes. And this is potentially going to spread to more airports. All right, so they're getting some stuff done behind the scenes. They're making nominations, they're approving things, but stuff like this is still deteriorating, right? So maybe they can pass a quick bill just for this. And something I was thinking about too is that this shutdown doesn't even really make sense to me, because I thought the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. And a continuing resolution bill that they normally use for budget items like this normally only requires a simple majority. So, I mean, they should be able to pass this unless there's some Republicans that are holding out, which might be happening right now. Maybe Thomas Massie or Rand Paul or someone like that doesn't approve of, increased budget spending or something along those lines is holding out. I'm not sure what the holdup is, but I was just thinking about it, that they should be able to pass a CR bill with a simple majority. And I was even looking this up. It should be true. It is correct. And the only thing the Democrats could really even do is a filibuster, which only can last so long, right? They can only talk so much, only so winded before they just kind of give up on that. So I'm not sure what's going on, if there's Republican senators holding out, but it's starting to affect air traffic control, which something that is we didn't really see before, okay? Because in 2019, maybe it was 18, it was in Trump's first term, there was a 35-day shutdown. It was over a month long, and we didn't see these air traffic control, failures like this, really. So I'm not sure what's happening. Maybe it's just a type of budget lapse, or maybe more people are just calling out sick this time because they don't want to work without getting paid. I'm not sure, but hopefully there's a fix to it. All right, let's listen to exactly what Secretary of the Homeland Security Kristi Noem is saying on Fox News. She visited Portland, Oregon today. And let's listen to this really quick.
I met with him and also the superintendent of the state police. I told them what we wanted. We wanted more security here at the building, a bigger buffer zone to keep our officers safe. We wanted to have their streets opened up again and not let the anarchists run this city anymore. That we would ask them to continue to back us up like we've been asking for, instead of what they've been doing the last several months, which is just leaving our officers hang out to dry. The chief asked if I wanted to meet with the mayor, and I said absolutely. Came back and just met with the mayor, and I'm so extremely disappointed. He's continuing to play politics, did not commit to any of those promises, and said that he'd give me an answer by tomorrow, and I'm hopeful that he will. What I told him is that if he did not follow through on some of these security measures for our officers, we were going to cover him up with more federal resources, and that we were going to send 4 times the amount of federal officers here so that the people of Portland could have some safety. They could have some security. Today, Jesse, we went and got a sex offender off the streets here in Portland that had been violating minors, and we're going to bring him to justice. And this Portland mayor tried to brag about him making our streets safer. No, absolutely not. It is our federal CBP and ICE officers that are cleaning up this city, and every single day they're going to stay dedicated to doing that.
So none of these officials thanked you for getting these pedophiles off the street?
They said that they were glad that that was happening, but that they weren't going to change their posture. They're continuing to... Here's the deal, Jesse, is they're more scared of the anarchists that are down on the street right now yelling horrible, horrific threats at our officers than they are of the officers or the people that live in this city. Right next to this building is an apartment building filled with people who deserve to be able to come in and out of their building safely. I asked the mayor, I said, do you get to go home at night and walk from your car into your building and do so safely? Do you get to drive to work and be safe while you do that? I said, those people don't get the opportunity to do that.
All right, so that was something I was actually saying the past few days, is that there's people that live right next to all these riots and chaos and protests and stuff. It fluctuates throughout the day. Certain times of the day it's protests, certain times of the day it's insurrection or instigators and riots. So, yeah, there's people living right there. and they're dealing with this too, and they don't like this either. They don't want to be in the middle of this. And she is saying that she's going to send potentially up to 4 times as many National Guardsmen into Portland, or federal agents, excuse me, not National Guardsmen, but 4 times as many federal agents, ICE and DHS agents, into Portland than are already currently there. So she's not backing down, and she's actually turned out to be, a pretty steady figure for the DHS, right? I mean, I wasn't sure, just because she was like the governor of South Dakota, I believe, I wasn't sure, if she had the complete experience, like any law enforcement experience or anything like that, but she's definitely at least been like a good spokesperson for ICE and DHS, and just like hasn't backed down really, hasn't faltered in the face of a lot of pressure. Okay, so, impressive that she's going into these cities, talking to these governors, talking to these mayors, and they're still holding their position that they're not going to cooperate with DHS or ICE. So things aren't changing for now, but I think if they continue to put pressure on, if they send in more federal agents, I think there's also been talks behind the scenes as well too. I've been reading from certain sources that they are in talks to seriously cut federal funding for these cities and states that are not cooperating with the federal government, with their federal agent deployments and with their National Guard deployments. There's serious talks of just completely shutting down federal funding, and I think excuse me, I've just been sick for like almost 2 weeks. I think the shutdown is kind of important right now. Okay, maybe that's why they are keeping it shut down. Maybe they want it shut down because they have a lot of leverage. Because Trump's even saying, look, we're going to eliminate a lot of these federal jobs permanently to make budget cuts since we don't have any money. All right, and he technically has the power to do that during these shutdowns because the executive branch now has the power over monetary decisions during these shutdowns, and he actually has power to fire tens of thousands of federal workers and never bring the position back. So, maybe a different president can, but he's not going to bring these positions back. And I think that could be the play that they make with some of these cities and states as well too, right? That might be a part of the provisions is, look, we don't have any money. The government shut down, so your federal funding is gone and has completely dried up. And I think that's even part of some of these bills that the Republicans are presenting, as they're trying to slash funding for a lot of these programs that have been funding things like hotels for illegal aliens. They've been funding food. Okay, places like New York were getting tens of millions of dollars. A few months ago, the DHS took back, I think it was around $50 million from New York City that they were getting in federal grant money to pay for hotels for, quote, migrant housing. Okay, so that was happening, and all these big same things happen in Chicago. So I think they're putting on a lot of leverage to stop all the grant money and federal funding money for all of these programs, which are kind of slush funds as well too. It's like, yeah, they're using for, quote, migrant housing, but a lot of they're skimming a lot of money off the top too and overcharging. Certain companies are food catering companies. Okay, places in New York, they were getting hundreds of dollars a day, $300 a day just for food allowances. Okay, so stuff that the average person just couldn't even comprehend how much money they were spending. And I think a lot of it was skimming off the top, and a lot of these officials like mayors and commissioners in these certain cities are getting kickbacks and getting money from these federal grant programs. And if they start threatening them to take them away, I think they could get, results that they want. So that's what I've been hearing behind the scenes is going on. The talks is they're going to send in more National Guard, more federal troops, and also completely just slash funding for these certain cities that are not cooperating with the federal government. So let me know what you guys think down below. Make sure you guys are staying safe, staying prepared, stocked up, okay? And if you don't have to go on these big cities, don't go to them right now, okay? Even Washington, D.C., the National Guard's there, and there's some guy with 200 explosives in a tent. Like, it's just, there's just crazy stuff going on right now. The crazies have been activated, okay? I think it's a full moon out tonight. Okay, so they're out in full force right now, so just be prepared, keep your head on a swivel, all right? And have situational awareness wherever you are, wherever you go. Just, have a look around and be aware of the people that are around you, okay? Even if they're completely innocent, they're not doing anything. Just have an awareness of where they're at, what they're doing, how close they are to you, how they're acting, things like that, right? And don't let people get too close to you, right? Especially in certain situations where it could be threatening. Just keep your situational awareness high, and the best offense in situations like that is defense, is just to remove yourself from sketchy situations, right? Get out alive. That's the main goal. So thank you guys. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared. I hope you have big blessings for your life and your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.